Hey there, this is Pokket with MMORPG, bringing you another game face. Now this week I am going to cover a different game. Oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to be covering Tera, and as many of you know, the beta was actually last weekend, the first open beta, and so I have my first impressions from that.
Many of us who play MMOs have been paying attention to the upcoming MMO called Tera. With one beta down and many more to go, a select amount of people have already gotten a taste of the game. There wasn't any PvP available in this beta, and there was also a level cap, so basically this video will cover my first impressions of the game up to this point. The first thing to note when logging into the game, or at least the first thing that you'll run across, is the character creation. You'll notice that it's really in-depth, and you can create absolutely beautiful characters. One thing I liked about this character creation system is it didn't allow you to have too many options. You couldn't go over the top with your creations. However, you could definitely make some pretty goofy looking characters. And the outfits for a few of the races were definitely a bit over the top. However, I did definitely enjoy making many different characters. I made a Vaporia, an Elin, Castana, Cumin. I made basically one of everything. Once you log into the game, it goes without saying that the environment is astounding. It is very, very high fantasy, with its bright colors and fairies everywhere, and it's really gorgeous. There are quite a few spots in the game where I actually stopped playing momentarily just so I could take a picture. But one thing that I did notice from zone to zone is that a lot of the mobs were actually reused. They weren't reskinned, they were just reused. And so basically it felt like you were doing the same quests over and over and over again. Speaking of questing, the questing in the game is very basic. It wasn't as grindy as other MMOs like Ion. However, you did have to kill some mobs over and over, collect these certain items, and then escort person A to point B. Now, one problem I did have is I was confused about the questing at first. I guess it's because I'm used to other MMOs where you get this and you have to go to this certain spot and there's usually a quest marker, but there really aren't any quest markers. There are some quests where you can click on a blue name within the quest and it'll show you on the map where to go, but otherwise, the general rule of thumb, at least that I learned, is that the quest is going to be near the quest giver. So after I got used to it, the questing actually wasn't too bad. As grindy as it did seem, when I did turn in the quest, they actually gave a high amount of XP, but I am curious to see what the higher levels are going to be giving, and if it'll scale to be about the same. The combat is reminiscent of games like Dragon Nest and Vindictus, both of which I have played. I've played an Elin Warrior to 21 and thought the combat animations were definitely impressive and elaborate. The combo system is really easy to get used to. In fact, you can create your own combos, which I found really cool. It's like if I wanted to use an ability and then have something else proc after I use it, then I could combo that. There were a few things that I weren't keen on in this combat system, and one of those is the fact that I couldn't find a way to cancel an ability. For instance, I had an ability that was basically about 3 seconds of me swinging my sword and jumping forward at the target. Another thing I noticed is that there's no ability queue, and that's something that I personally like in MMOs, is being able to queue up another ability. Otherwise, I find myself spam clicking something just so I can get it to go off. In a lot of my abilities, it felt like there was a mild delay between the abilities as well, between when I would finish an ability and the next one would go off. It felt like there was a slight hesitation between the two. I did get to try out an instance as well. The instance was a lot of fun. I had, of course my guild members in with me. And as we were taking on swarms of mobs, I did have a lot of fun just using all of my AoE abilities and just seeing tons of numbers fly up around me. But one thing that I did notice is that the names often got lost, and I couldn't see who was actually attacking what and where they were attacking. It was really hard to define that. The bosses were certainly entertaining, and they had some pretty awesome moves. It involved a lot of movement and slight coordination from your team. And this of course also involved the world bosses. My group did take on 3 different world bosses, and it certainly was a lot of fun to see the bosses, especially the spider one that would stop, roll around, continue fighting, then roll back around, continue fighting, and it was constant movement. A few of the bosses I was too low of a level, and so I kept getting one shot, which was kind of exciting. Luckily, we had a priest that was there and kept rezzing us in combat. I was surprised that they literally could just go around and keep rezzing people. In fact, I think he spent more time rezzing people than he did actually healing anybody. Perhaps we should have been a higher level. That might be our fault. Oops. Now, it goes without saying that a lot of these fights did feel really similar. Despite the bosses having different mechanics, it still was avoid X, avoid Z, fight the boss. Avoid A, avoid B, fight the boss. Now, I've only done a level 20 instance and fought some world bosses. I have no idea about the rating. I didn't play the Korean server, so I don't really know how the rating's going to be. I do want to level a character up and raid just to try it out. The last thing I really wanted to point out is the keyboard turners and the clickers. They're going to have a harder time in this MMO because it isn't friendly to people who play like that. Now, I know a lot of you watching this might think, wow, keyboard turners, clickers, oh my gosh, no way, blasphemy. But you'd be surprised how many people that play MMOs actually do this. You can't really adjust your character without pausing or basically getting the menu up, and you can't turn your camera while running. Now, that's something I might have an issue with in PvP, because as I was dueling and someone would blink behind me, I literally had to turn my whole character, and if I was in the middle of an action and I tried to turn my character, I couldn't do it. I had to wait for the action to complete. In a different MMO, I would have been able to turn the camera around while I was still in the action, so I could immediately predict what I would need to do to catch up to them. Just something to think about. I did have a blast, and I think that this will be a game for a niche group of people.
So that's it for this episode. Do keep in mind that this was only my impressions of levels 1 to 21 on a warrior. I did level a couple other characters up to level 8. But that's pretty much it. There's no PvP in the game, at least beyond dueling. And so it's kind of limited. I do plan on covering the PvP in the future though. As always, you can follow me on Twitter, and you should head on over to MMORPG to check out more reviews, gameplay analysis, and guides. Outro.